This entire site was one prompt. Anthropic just released Claude Fable 5, the first AI model from a tier they wouldn't release to the public until now, and I've been throwing my hardest real-world tests at it to see what it has. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where it's a genuine leap, where it falls flat, what the costs are, and why you have until June 22nd to try it for free. Quick context, because the naming is quite confusing. Anthropic now has a tier above Opus called Mythos-class. Until a couple days ago, Mythos models were locked away. Only select organizations in a project called Project Glasswing had access to it. Fable 5 is that Mythos model, but made safe for the rest of us. Same underlying brain as Claude Mythos 5, but the difference is safeguards. If you ask about a few sensitive areas, offensive security, certain biology, a classifier quietly sends your request off to 4.8 instead. Anthropic says it only happens in about 5% of sessions, and it will tell you when it actually does this. So the headline is simple. The most capable AI model anyone can just use starting from today. The question is whether we can actually feel the difference. That's what we're testing today. Before my test, let's talk about the numbers, because Fable 5 is pretty insane. On Software Engineering Bench Pro, the hard software engineering benchmark, Fable 5 scores 80.3%. Opus 4.8, the previous best, gets 69.2%. GPT 5.5 gets 56.6%. Gemini 3.1 Pro, 54.2%. So it's 11.1% better than the best model we already have. On Cognition's FrontierCode, which tests where the code actually meets production standards, Fable scores 29.3%. That sounds pretty low until you see Opus at 13.4% and GPT 5.5 at 5.7%. That's not an increment, that's a different class. And it's not just benchmarks we're talking about. Stripe ran this on a 50 million line code base on a migration that they thought would take over 2 months, and they did it in literally 1 day. Well, how do you actually try it? It's in the model picker on plans Pro, Max, Team, and Enterprise plans at no extra cost. Only until June 22nd though. From the 23rd, it comes off all of those plans and you'll need extra usage credits until capacity catches up. On the API, it's Claude Fable 5 at $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. This is less than half of what Mythos Preview cost, and it's still pretty pricey. Test 1, the one-shot landing page and website. I crafted a prompt for Fable to use to build a premium feeling AI agentic SaaS website. I let it run and reviewed the output to find a one-shotted website with all the necessary pages, and all of them are extremely well crafted. This would have taken a much longer time if I was using Opus 4.8. The model's ability to actually execute strongly over multiple tasks over a long period of time is actually incredible. A lot of these pages, I've reviewed them and they're just perfect. I wouldn't change basically anything. Maybe, of course, there's maybe content or copy that I would have to change. But besides that, the actual structure and the UI of it is absolutely excellent. Test 2, vision. Because Anthropic says that Fable 5 is the new state of the art here. They say it can rebuild an app only from screenshots alone. So I took a screenshot of Claude code itself and asked it to build itself. The result is really good, although it's not exactly the same. The API and integration and chat streaming works after one prompt, which is actually quite good. It works exactly how I would a desktop LLM chatter. It streams well. It's not perfect, but it's really good. If I tweak the prompt a little bit, I could probably get a little bit better output. For what it is, off a screenshot and a small prompt, it's great. It's got a bit of an issue around the chat box where you type your messages. It's not exactly the same. There are some deviations here, but that's okay. You can also just keep prompting and get that sorted. And if you want to hear something actually quite interesting, Claude Fable 5 was able to beat Pokémon FireRed with just screenshots alone. No helper tools, no map, just vision. Apparently, Opus 4.8 and any other models required extensive helpers and scaffolding in order to be able to actually do this. And they still struggled even so. Test 3 is the one that actually matters for real work. A long multi-step job. I set Claude to ultra code thinking and made it do research on agentic AI apps and find a gap in the market based on a few criteria. And it built the entire application in one prompt of direction. The only reason I touched it again is that I was hitting my usage cap. I tasked Claude with research and with building an app with a database and complicated integrations, and it did exactly as was asked. This kind of task is where models usually start off strong and fall apart towards the end. I'm truly impressed with this model. At so many points, it could have missed something. This is usually where Opus 4.8 would just be missing stuff. Certain pages would start looking a bit funny. The actual layout and like overall congruency across the app would start to actually fall apart a bit. But it didn't do that here. It did an incredible job. This is where Anthropic says it pulls furthest ahead. The longer the task, the bigger the job, the bigger the jump, obviously, in overall performance. They even tested it on a card game called Slay the Spire. It's a long memory-based card game where it apparently performed 3 times better with the upgrade of file memory compared to Opus 4.8. Now, what are the downsides? Obviously, it's cost and speed. The model takes a long time to think, and it thinks quite hard. So this will end up spending a lot of your usage, and it takes a bit of time to get a good output. It eats your usage at twice the rate of Opus 4.8. So in my opinion, running this at high thinking or lower is the best way to use it, and I wouldn't even try going higher than that unless you want to one-shot your usage. The next downside is the safeguards. They are real, and some people may run into them. But I think for most people, unless you are working in cybersecurity and working on malware or certain biology fields, you're not going to actually run into any problems. It hasn't happened to me a single time where I was referred to Opus 4.8 while using Fable 5. Something you should know is that if you are on the business plan, there is now a 30-day retention window for Mythos-class models. This is just for safety monitoring and is not used for training data. Just know it exists if you have a problem with that. And after June 22nd, the free window is closed. Free, it uses your plan. So now it's time for the verdict. Is Fable 5 the best model you can use right now? Based on my tests, it's the best model I've ever used, and I'm extremely impressed with it. Is it the model you'll use for everything? No. This is something you'll use when jobs are big, long, and worth it, and where quality is important. For everything else, Opus and Sonnet are still there, but I'll be using this model as much as I possibly can. Try Fable before the 22nd, let me know what you threw at it in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.